Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, a former congressman and vice presidential candidate arrested.
I am here because of a charge of cyber libel that was filed by the camp of Vice President Sara Duterte. This is pure political persecution.
The Vice President calling his remarks an insult to prosecutors. Laban ng Masa Chairman Walden Bello joins us live. And later, a bill seeks to remove the mandatory retirement of senior citizens. Civil Service Commissioner Eileen Lizada also joins us later in the program. Former vice presidential candidate Walden Bello has been released on bail over charges of libel and cyber libel. He claims his arrest was connected to Vice President Sara Duterte and his tirades against her during the campaign. Duterte says Bello should just, quote, stop blaming me for his fall from grace. The vice president adds freedom of speech does not give anyone the right to defile the name and reputation of others. Let's go straight to the source of the story. Partido Lakas ng Masa chairperson and former vice presidential candidate Walden Bello. Mr. Bello, welcome to the source. How are you a day after posting bail?
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me to your program. By the way, just a slight correction, I am the chair of Laban ng Masa and not Partido Lakas ng Masa. I am feeling fine today, and I would just like to say that we are going to have a very busy day today in terms of dealing with this charge of cyber libel. And we, in fact, have a press conference coming up in 1 hour. But as far as I'm concerned at this point in time, I have no doubts about my innocence.
Do you have any plans to actually even question your arrest last Monday?
Yes. Basically, we, the case had been in the prosecutor's office in Davao City. We had been expecting the warrant of arrest as of about a week and a half now. It's just the speed with which it was carried out, however, on Monday, filed in Davao at noon, and then I was arrested at about close to 5 o'clock. That was a bit fast. That was what surprised us, but that the warrant of arrest would come, we had been expecting that.
Yeah. In an earlier interview, I heard you say that you and your lawyers were actually really monitoring this, but you didn't expect the arrest warrant to happen that Monday. You mentioned a while ago also, even on social media, for those who were taking your side and were very unhappy with how the manner and the time that you were arrested, because it happened on Monday at almost 5 p.m., actually forcing you. This forces the person to stay overnight in a detention center because that particular individual will be unable to post bail the same day. And in fact, netizens were also commenting, nakaposas pa daw po kayo, senior citizen na kayo at your age of over 70, as if you're a threat. So let me go back to that. Yun ho bang pag-issue o pagkuha sa inyo using an arrest warrant at almost 5, is that something you plan to question?
We could question it, whether there were certain motivations behind it. Was it calculated to make me spend one night in jail? I am, these are questions that are very valid questions, but I don't think we are going to pursue raising it as a problem of process at this point in time. We have bigger issues to deal with at this point. Among them, showing that this cyber libel charge is totally without foundation and is a threat to freedom of speech. Now, Having said that, I would just like to say, that the QCCD officers that managed my case, they were quite courteous about me, and they were to me, and they made sure that it would not be too inconvenient for me while I was within their custody.
I see. So you were, I guess, quite taken care of.
Yes. They put me in an office where I spent the night, and that was, it was, what can we say? Being under arrest is never a pleasant
experience
time, but nevertheless, they tried to make it as not unpleasant as possible.
They tried to make it as comfortable, I guess, for you as possible. Let's talk about, sir, the case na cyber libel. You're saying this has no foundation. Let's go back to this. The case actually stems from your comments regarding Jeffrey Tupas, the ex-Davao information officer, basically allegedly involved with drugs. This is the person who charged you with libel. But you say further on that this case was actually instigated by Vice President Sara Duterte's camp. Do you still stand by this?
Oh, yes. I'm more convinced than ever. A person like Jeffrey Tupas could not have lodged this case on her own. She is a she, okay? And the driving force behind this whole thing is clearly the Vice President, then Mayor Sara Duterte. You see, our posts during that period appeared in the context of questioning Sara Duterte's record as mayor of Davao, a number of problems that were related to her management of Davao City, and issues that had to do with infrastructure and others, and including the fact, that we asked the question, was she aware, that Ms. Tupas, her press information officer, was at a party where drugs were flowing, which was raided by the PDEA, but she was actually not arrested like the others were after she identified herself as being the press information officer of Sara Duterte. So it was in that context of questioning Mayor Duterte's record to ask her to come out in a debate with us as the sixth candidate, and Ms. Tupas was strictly incidental, to the posts that we were making at that point, asking Sara to please show up in a debate to answer questions about your record.
But here's the thing. If Tupas is incidental, the allegations were still made by you to Tupas, saying that allegedly she was in a beach party where they were basically doing drugs. I think the word used was snorting 1.5 million worth of drugs. I mean, understandably, this was the information officer of then Vice President Sara Duterte, but the allegation on drugs was directed towards the Jeffrey Tupas.
Well, as you know, Pinky, this was news at that time. It was very, very widespread news throughout the country that this raid had taken place, and that Ms. Tupas was at that party where drugs were flowing. And as I said, the main thrust of the questions that we raised, and these were in the form of questions, was the mayor of Davao, who was running for vice president, aware, that this had happened, and that was this not a case of, that called into question her capabilities of running for vice president of the country. That was the context of that statement. So, I mean, in normal political discourse, especially in a campaign, this is the give and take of campaigns. You answer that in terms of a democratic debate, But instead of answering it and defending her record, just like I would defend mine, the camp of the vice president, one, lodged this cyber libel charge. Two, they declared me persona non grata, the city council of Davao, and then they labeled me a narco politician. So instead of addressing issues we were raising head on, they were trying to intimidate us by weaponizing the law against us. So that's really the whole context of this, I would say, very, very silly and unfounded charge of cyber libel.
Let's just bring in the portions of the statement of Vice President Sara Duterte. She said that her father, and I quote, gave me sound advice, never listen to attacks hurled against her family. She goes on to say that I never shared my spotlight with Walden Bello, despite the offensives he launched against me. Towards the end of her statement, she says, stop obsessing over me and stop blaming me for his fall from grace. Your reaction to this, sir?
Well, I don't know what fall from grace she is referring to. I think, in fact, this case, has brought the attention of the country to her methods of responding to criticism. And I think that when we talk about obsessing, actually it is the vice president that is obsessing, because they have pushed this case. They have not dropped it after the elections. They have pushed this case to the legal process, ending in my being arrested. So it is a case of the vice president being really, really, really upset by the truth of her record as mayor of Davao, and responding in this way, weaponizing the law. So it is the vice president that is obsessing over me. And she should just stop evading the issue. She is behind this. Everybody knows that.
What are your next moves?
Well, we plan to fight this case all the way. We will take every legal step to show that I am innocent of this charge of cyber libel. But as you know, Pinky, this goes beyond me. This goes to the freedom of speech and freedom of the press. This goes to the whole question of libel and cyber libel, and the reason that it must really be decriminalized. That we must not allow laws like this to hang like sort of Damocles over media practitioners and over ordinary citizens like me. So this is more than me. This is more than me, and good that it is, has now hit the legal process and will serve as a source of media attention for the next, several months or years, so that we can in fact show, that we cannot have laws like this existing. I know that there are now efforts in the Senate and the House to decriminalize libel, and it's about time, because if you don't decriminalize it, you will always have opportunistic politicians who cannot defend their records, resorting to weaponizing the law. And this is exactly what Vice President Sara Duterte has done. Weaponize the law against her critics.
Yeah, let's see if this will actually happen in the 19th Congress to decriminalize cyber libel. Just one last question, sir. I understand that you were supposed to go to the United States at some point. During an earlier interview, you said that you teach in the U.S. Is this something you'll still be able to do?
Well, I go there for 2 months out of every year to fulfill a teaching commitment at the State University of New York at Binghamton. I expect to still be able to do that. And of course, the law allows that so long as you ask permission
from the court.
The judge, from the court, and you are not considered a flight risk, which I definitely am no flight risk. I have always, been a Filipino citizen. I have lived here, and I have no intention of hiding out in any other country.
Laban ng Masa Chairman Walden Bello, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.
Thank you too. Thank you, Pinky.
And coming up, a lawmaker files a bill seeking to scrap the mandatory retirement age of 65. Civil Service Commissioner Eileen Lezada joins us. After the break, please stay tuned.